which is a large-scale push for technology innovation. One of the great initiatives of the Vision 2021 national agenda, which intends to develop a knowledge-based economy built on innovation and on diversification of sectors. Smart Dubai recently announced the new vision and the new partnership to cope with changing consumer behavior and allows shopping malls to provide safe experiences and fully safety measures. Dr. Aisha, the Director General of Smart Dubai, explained that Smart Dubai is currently in discussion with all its partners to expand the scope of the project and potentially include more partners. She said the project makes optimal use of available data and this digital wealth it represents to upgrade products and services offered by the city malls to the residents and visitors of Dubai. In turn, it brings us closer to achieving our objective of transforming Dubai to the world's happiest and smartest city. As we could all imagine, the pressure on smart city Dubai project leaders and the importance of building transformational leaders who can take on this initiative and all its transformational components to a big success. So examples are many in the Middle East region, and project leaders are nowadays, even more than ever before, focusing on transforming the economy towards more sustainable sectors. We are witnessing daily transformation accelerated by emerging technologies, disruptive operational models, the need to innovate, and most importantly, to cope with these unprecedented circumstances, whether in PMOs, organizations, and even more in government. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai, has called for a government restructure as part of the plans to prepare the country for the post-pandemic future. He said, we may merge ministries, we may change bodies. Anyone who thinks that the world after COVID-19 will be the same as before is mistaken. So, Eddie, I would like to start by kicking off our discussion with a couple of questions, and then we'll open it to the audience. Please start putting in writing your questions, and then we can take them all after the discussion. Eddie, let us start by elaborating more on the role of leaders in enabling transformation. As we all know, the biggest barrier to transformation is the lack of engagement of people. So people are at the heart of every transformation. What are your views on that?
Perfect. And team, thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be speaking with you. I want to kickstart talking about what is transformation, right? Because we hear this word a lot of times, and sometimes it confuses with changes or improvements that some organizations are doing. So for me, to become a transformation leader, I think you need to understand what is the context of transformation, what are the types of transformation. And despite there will be some nuances according to the industry sector you're dealing with or the type of programs you're working with, we might have some key characteristics of this transformation. So let's start talking about, for example, if you're doing a shift in your business today from one sector to another sector. So, for example, car manufacturing companies today, what they're seeing as the future of mobility maybe go beyond just manufacturing cars. So maybe it will be heavily based on data collection, data analysis, and also providing solutions for people, for organizations also in the mobility space that will be a lot beyond what we have today in terms of the use of cars or individuals having their own cars, etc. That goes along with public transportation, how that mobility if I'm a car manufacturing company, for example, will be integrated with the public transportation. So this is a shift. This is a major shift in the whole business. That could be an example of transformation. So essentially, you're reimagining the whole business and how to develop a new value proposition and how to deliver that value proposition. So that could be one type. You can also have a type that will be a little less radical. Let's say you are expanding a business or you're improving the business. So you have a core business already. So let's say you're in the energy sector. You want to enter in and provide a new source of energy or expand your supply of energy. So there will be some elements that you need to transform. So for example, if it's solar energy, you can think about the ways or new culture or new technology and what are the skills and talents you actually need to develop and expand your business to that sector. But even though you're still in the energy sector, but it will require a different mindset, a different way of working. Maybe will be a little bit disruptive or maybe not too disruptive if you rethink the whole business about producing and supplying energy. And there are some initiatives that we can call transformations as well, but sometimes it's just to maintain your business, your core business. So for example, you're digitizing, so you're doing a digital transformation, let's say, you are making one offer, one product or one service you already have less costly or more rapidly, or you're improving a customer expectation or a customer demand, developing the same exactly services, but using, for example, technology. So in essential, you can find like examples of transformation, turnaround. So it's driven by underperforming business. So you need to recover your business. You need to back down your business to become profitable again. Maybe some changes in policy. And as Tracy mentioned, the crisis today is actually one of the main drivers for organizations to start in transformation initiatives today. So if you look back 5 years ago, for example, there were so many organizations that were thinking about transformation, say, oh, there's a new technology here, 5G, for example. How am I going to add value, or what's going to be my value proposition given that we have a 5G technology coming in? What kind of products, what kind of problems we're going to solve? So they were thinking, oh, maybe this 5G is going to arrive here in 2 years, 3 years. So we need to come up with a plan to deal with that transformation. Today, because of the crisis, and before the call, Gracie was telling me about the digital services that the government is providing in the region. And I can say in Brazil, for example, I'm Brazilian, I'm living in Brazil right now. And in Brazil, for example, the DMV here, that is the same DMV, for example, that in the United States for the transportation. If you want to renovate your licensed driver, for example, you used to have to go to a place in person to get that document renewed. Now they're coming up with new services, digital services, in which you can do by using your phone. So this is the type of transformation that is being forced, not only in the government side, but in the private sector as well, as a result of the crisis, right? So here's some roles that a transformation leader, and we as project leaders or project managers, I think it's very important to take into consideration some of these roles that are really important for transformation initiatives. As we move up to the ladder in our career, you can think about how to become a better transformation leader and help the organization and the executive leaders implementing transformation successful. So let me give you a few ideas about what are these roles and what are these skills. So the first one would be you need to be able to frame the transformation. And what is framing the transformation? Framing the transformation will mean You need to understand the context in which your business is and what is driving that change, what is driving that disruption or that transformation, and what are the impacts in your business. So it's very important to do that, because otherwise you're not going to be clear about, okay, what are the goals for my transformation? Okay. It's also very important to be digital or technology savvy, meaning you don't need to be an expert on every technology that is out there, but depends on the business you are, it's really important for you to understand what are the trends, what are the digital tools or the technologies that are emerging, and that your organization can leverage to enable transformation or to enable the delivery of our new value proposition for organization. So I gave the example of solar energy. So if you're working within a solar energy transformation for your industry and you're managing the transformation initiative, it will be paramount to have someone helping you with the technicalities as well, or you understand, you have a good understanding about the technology behind it, because that's going to help you architect the transformation. And that's another key role for a transformation leader. You need to be able to architect or plan and create a business plan for the transformation, for the implementation of transformation. Another key role that is essential for project leaders, program managers, portfolio managers, and the transformation leader, and us, project leaders, we do very well that. Otherwise, we cannot stay in our profession for a long period, is stakeholder management. Stakeholder management is essentially is elementary for transformation leadership, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of people, different people with different expectations in the different ranks in your organization, and that could include government, clients, different entities, and institutions. And that's really important. You need to master conflict resolution management, stakeholder management. You need to be good in negotiation. So that are very important roles. Another important is you need to be an innovator. Meaning you need to challenge the status quo. And by challenging the status quo, meaning what we can do better, what we can improve, how can we make this different, how can we rethink the way we do things here in order to come up with a better solution, a different solution, or a totally disruptive solution. So that's a behavior and an attitude that is really important for the transformation leader, because at the end of the day, the transformation leader will be the person inspiring people, inspiring and motivating other project leaders, program leaders, the executive board to go and buy in, and towards the same goal, or they will need to be on the same boat. So that's important for this person to be able to inspire other people. Along with that, if you think about more specific roles and capabilities, Grace, I would say you need to understand customer journey. So it's going to help you a lot understanding the customer needs, etc. How to design a new business model, communication, business architecture, operations, etc. Setting up an appropriate governance structure. What are the KPIs you're going to use? How to decompose objectives into metrics and be able to collect the data for measuring those metrics to see progress, etc. How to implement the best decision-making process possible that is aligned with our transformation, that will help you to make decisions faster and better, right? So setting an appropriate governance model will be essential role as well. Piloting and scaling programs, and this is very critical, especially if your transformation is something very disruptive. So it's important for you to understand, okay, how can I invest in these initiatives using, let's say, a venture capitalist style, using small grants or small buckets of funding, and pilot and pivot some ideas or some projects within our transformation scope to test some hypotheses or to test some ideas or to develop a specific technology or to see how it's worked with a supplier that we never worked before or a partner that we want to bring us closer to us that's going to help us with distribution, is going to help with the sales, etc., etc. So this is really important. And I just want to mention one last item before we move to another question. As a transformation leader, you're going to have a very holistic vision of your organization, both from the structure side, from the operation side, from the strategy side, how people work together. And I would suggest it's very important for you to understand new ways of working, new ways of delivering value. And that will include everything that you need to deliver value, from everything in the spectrum of delivering value in the transformation. So it could be agile ways of working, it could be how people interact with technology, new tools and techniques for you to make reports, to collect data, to interact with people, etc. You can see today how many organizations, they never thought about, having a home office policy. And, in a matter of weeks, they actually need to come up with that policy, that new way of working, and help people to be, to get used to that kind of work, to that kind of environment of working. So everything now became virtual. And for some organizations, that was something they seemed that impossible at the beginning. They had to make that change in a matter of weeks. So you need to be aware of what are the new ways of working, the trends in the management, in the leadership, to innovate the way we do things. Sometimes a lot of organizations, they are very worried about innovation in technology, in product, but they tend to forget how can we innovate the way my organization is structured. And that's innovation management, right? That's the innovation in the management. So it's management innovation. Sorry, it's not innovation management, it's management innovation. So you're innovating, you're changing, you're rethinking the way you manage the whole operation, the way you're structured, the roles, the power decision, the decision-making structure, the government, etc. So it's very important to take that into account because all this technology and the trends you can see in different markets will impact the way the organization behaves, the way the organization is structured.
Thanks, Eddie. That was really insightful, and I think it gave us all some fruit of thoughts. And I would like now to take it, and I like the fact that you share lots of examples about what happened and about the transformation speed and velocity, I would say. Let us take it now to the perspective of PMOs. Actually, we are witnessing lots of changes when it comes to PMOs focus, especially in the Middle East. The focus now is more of a transformation office or strategy office. What are your insights for the audience and for PMOs specifically, those who are in charge of leading, planning, and controlling and tracking the results of transformational initiatives? What are the most innovative practices, governance, culture, mindset shifts, and any other aspects that are needed in order to lead successfully results?
That's a wonderful question, Gracie. And let's go back a few years and talk about the PMO. So naturally, how the PMO evolved throughout the years, and we know there are different ways of setting up a PMO, different responsibilities we can have a PMO. You can have PMO in different levels in the organization, from the project level to the enterprise level, etc. So from more operational to tactical to strategic. And I think there are some organizations already that are both dealing with transformation and have an enterprise PMO that essentially are doing some or are taking responsibility and accountability for some transformation aspects. So, for example, a transformation office essentially could be you're gonna leverage the same concepts and some of the practices of a traditional PMO, but you're gonna be focused even more on the strategy part, on the strategic part of the transformation, which means how can we build and enable the organization to develop what we call an operating system or a transformation operating system. What is an operating transformation system? I'm going to cover a little bit more about this building block. We call this a building block. So the operating transformation system is essentially how the transformation will be structured throughout the teams, how the teams will work together. Are we going to have a central team? Are we going to have a central body or a board of directors or leadership that will take into account the most complex decisions? How are we going to delegate and empower the people in the front line to make decisions faster, better? What are the metrics we can use to make that happen? And I can tell you some of the most recent and emerging practices that are being used for some organizations could include from OKRs, objective key results, up to the agile ways of working or mindset, or even practices and frameworks to help the organizations become more nimble and more flexible. So essentially, a transformation management officer or a transformation officer could be the one responsible to help the transformation leader or the executive. In some organizations, this person will be the CTO, okay, the Chief Transformation Officer. Some organizations, this title could be, or this responsibility as a transformation leader could be as part of a COO, Chief Operating Officer, or even the CEO, okay? And in some cases, you can even find the CDO, the Chief Digital Officer. If the transformation or your business, like say banking, it's more towards digital services. But essentially, a TMO or a transformation officer or a transformation officer will be able to set the rules of the game, okay? Set the pace of the transformation, the rhythm, and that's really important, and the operation system, how the operation system will behave. It will become a source of knowledge and practice and support for the teams that are running the transformation projects or initiatives. Also, it will be the place to go in terms of data analytics. And today, trust me, every organization needs to understand how to do data analytics. Use big data, use data analytics, leverage data from the customers, from the competition, from the market, and even the data generated by your own products. And that's essential if you have a central board like a transformation officer that could collect and treat this data and provide valuable information both for the board of directors or the board of the senior executives and the leadership, the transformation leader in charge of the transformation. So a couple of other responsibilities could include how we're going to adapt to change. So for example, focus on the steering committee, mid-term, long-term planning as well. Based on the strategy of the company, help the transformation leader translate what are the key benefits they are looking for that transformation, and co-work and cooperate with stakeholders and teams in order to create the right culture. And today, one thing that I'm seeing very essential for transformation officer and even the PMO is, regardless of your responsibilities around managing the data, helping people planning, controlling, etc., another essential skill is how can the PMO or the TO help coaching people development, talent development. How can we have this structure to support leaders, team leaders, or the team members itself, understand and better know themselves, create this self-aware perspective, and help them develop, help them transform. We need to take an inside-out transformation approach, which the focus is going to be on people. People is the key element for transformation. Technology, most organizations, they have access to emerging technologies. Resources, we have access to resources. I mean, it's not unlimited resources, of course, and unlimited technology, but people, the talent, having the right people on board is more than ever critical a critical success factor.
Great. I can't agree more, Eddie. So talking about people, and I think in light of all the great things that have been said today, everyone is eager to hear what's PMI's perspective. So how PMI is evolving to respond to the emerging needs, the market needs. How PMI is going to support the building of the new organizational transformation capability.
That's a very important question. And I can tell you that we are doing very, very important and relevant initiatives. So, for example, one of them I want to mention is Brightline Initiative. That is a PMI initiative, but is more as a think tank that is responsible to create knowledge, capability building, and content around the transformation and strategy. And within this development, within PMI, we are thinking about creating a series of trainings and courses that will equip the project leaders to be prepared to work in transformations. And if they want to pursue the career of a transformation leader, prepare them in terms of knowledge and tools and techniques and frameworks so they can move further in their career and say, I want to become, for example, a transformation leader. So you will need to know, you need to have the right knowledge, okay, the right competences, and that's where PMI is helping through different initiatives, and also the experience. The experience is very important. The more experience you have, it's your repertoire. The more experience you have on transformation, different types of transformation, even though working different levels of transformation, the better it will be for you to become a successful leader. So, for example, within the courses and the capability building, as we call, which is how can we teach project managers to become a transformation leader, to successful transformation leaders, we're going to teach project leaders to understand everything in the transformation life cycle. So everything that is the beginning of framing a transformation up to the point as advancing a transformation. So, for example, how can we identify the key objectives of the transformation? Assessing, so for example, in terms of structure, how can we improve the structure to improve governance, to improve decision making? Another example, another piece of this knowledge that would be important, the whole transformation life cycle, starting from, for example, inspiring people to take this journey with you, creating coaches and change agents to help you as a leader implement the initiatives, etc. Mobilizing this change internally within the organization. Remember, I mentioned the stakeholder management and expectation management also. How can we involve people, motivate people to be part of this and be aligned within the overall goals of the organization, and also shifting the organization? Because transformation is a journey. At some point, you're going to have a lot of initiatives that combined will make sure that the organization shifts toward a totally new path or toward that goal that you set up for in the beginning of your business case. Another key element for transformation leaders that we're going to be including in these competence development offerings will be culture. How can we lead the cultural change? And this is very important. As I mentioned, that the TO or the PMO can help you as a leader on coaching people, excuse me, and helping people develop themselves, understand their inner expectations, and understand their motivations, understand their purpose. So you need to help people understand their purpose in the transformation so they can develop and transform themselves as well. So we want to provide to the community, the project leader, tools, techniques, and tips and checklists you can use within that scope to help you understand how to navigate the transformation life cycle. And ultimately, of course, spread this knowledge in the organization in a way that you're gonna teach other people on how they can be transformation leaders by themselves as well.
Yeah, great. So fantastic, Eddie. So I'm going to come up to the final last question before I open it up to the audience. How describe in summary? How do you describe the next step for project leaders? So what are the transformation building blocks and key elements? How do we start? You talked about the journey. So what's the roadmap?
That's very important. So let me cover a little bit the transformation building blocks, as we call. So within Brightline, I would suggest the first step maybe for everyone in this call, and also if you want to share that with your colleagues, your peers, and your community, if you go to brightline.org, you're going to find the Brightline Transformation Compass. So the Brightline Transformation Compass, we developed with PMI and Professor Behan Savisi from the Stanford University, and he's a well-known leader in transformation initiatives around the globe. So we partnered with PMI to build what we call the transformation building blocks, and essentially it's a set of tools and a framework that's a high-level framework to help people understand transformation and what is essential to transformation. So I would suggest and recommend you go in that website, brightline.org, and download the compass. It's for free, and you can read about the transformation. So this would be the first step. And then as you understand the building blocks, I can quickly cover them. The building blocks will be the North Star. You need to have a North Star, which is your moonshot or your main goal. That must be clear for everyone in the organization in order for transformation to happen. So that would be the first one. Where you're going, why you're going there, and what's your value proposition. Then you need to think about what are the customer insights and megatrends I need to leverage in order to reach that goal. The other two key elements, building blocks, will be volunteer champions, which we call that are people involved in transformation, for example, but as a part-time. You can have executives, you can have other stakeholders being part of the transformation in a part-time approach, helping you spreading the initiatives in the organization. And we have an essential element, which is another building block, which is the operating system. Is how the teams that will be fully dedicated to develop the initiative internally in the organization that we call rapid response teams. And we use a lot of agile techniques to develop agility with those teams and help the organization become more agile as well. And finally, and the most important, is the inside-out employee transformation. For me and for us that work on the transformation compass development, the inside-out transformation starts with your self-awareness. You're learning more about yourself. I always say that we have a feeling that we know a lot about ourselves, but I think it's very important to start with ourselves and say, okay, what's the purpose for me? What do I believe? How can I contribute more with this initiative? And you do the same with the people that work with you, that people that you're leading. Talk with them, communicate with them to understand their expectations, their motivations, their purpose. Because otherwise, you will never have a fully successful transformation if you don't help people to transform as well. And that's why if you look at the picture we developed for the compass, you're going to see that the inside transformation the employee transformation is at the center of the transformation compass. So this will be the first step. And of course, stay tuned for the courses that we're going to launch with PMI, along with a lot of resources that will come along with those offerings to get the knowledge about the transformation. And for those ones that are already working in transformation, you can start piloting and adopting that in practice immediately. And for those ones that are aspiring to help the organization to transform, you can start working with your teams on how these transformation initiatives will happen in your company or in your organization, or even the government or non-profit or for-profit organizations.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I think everybody is encouraged now to visit the site and learn more about the compass. I'm going to turn it over to Mario to articulate what are the questions that have been shared by the audience. So Mario, it's Over to you.
I think this is very essential and a key for project leaders to use in their transformation and change in their PMO and their organizations as a whole. So I would like to start with the questions that I've been receiving so far, and I would also encourage our attendees to ask their question if they have any. So I would start with a question. Is there a general risk caused by transformation that is common to all transformation projects? And if yes, if you can give us some examples.
That's a really interesting question. So a common risk. I think the main risk, I would say, the first one that comes to my mind is if you don't have a clear, and when I say clear, it's like really, really crystal clear vision about what are your goals for transformation and the motivation behind them, I think your transformation will kickstart doomed to be failure. So, and because if you're thinking about future, what's going to happen with my industry with 20 years, that is really hard to get, right? It's really hard to imagine how your business will be or will look like in 20 years. But you need to do, try everything you can to get a clear vision and a clear North Star, so then you can create what we call like a value tree for your North Star, and you can define what are the key objectives or goals that we need to reach or meet in, let's say, 6 months, 1 year, etc. So you can work by splitting or breaking down your vision, 20 years vision, 30 years vision, into horizons, and you say, okay, first horizon is going to be 1 year, 2 years. What we need to accomplish in these 2 years. So as you get closer to your North Star, of course you will need some flexibility, you need some course correction. And that's why you need to talk with customers, you need to collect data, you need constant feedback from whatever source you can get to help you course correct. But I think the most common risk is that you don't have a clear vision, and people working with transformation doesn't understand why we are transforming. That's a major risk that we need to try to mitigate from the beginning. Otherwise, no matter if you have a lot of money, you have a lot of talent in your organization, it's doomed to be a failure, unfortunately.
I totally agree. Thank you, Adi. I will move to another question. Transformation versus productivity, and how transformation affects productivity and time span required to adopt the transformation initiative.
That's a very clever question, and thank you for the question, by the way, everyone. So productivity, so let's assume a condition. In order to have productivity or improve productivity, you need to have data. You need to rely on the process. So you need to have a process. The process must be clear. The process must be reliable. Therefore, you're going to have your productivity, and you can continually improve your productivity. Within transformation, sometimes you will have some disruptive events that can impact productivity for some time. That's why it's really important for you, and a very important strategy for you is once you're dealing with transformation initiatives or changing a process or changing structure, you do that in small steps. But these steps must be consistent, systemic, and they need to be aligned with the end goal. So if the end goal is to transform a manufacturing plant to a 100% automated manufacturing plant, what is the trade-offs that I need to analyze in order to avoid the disruption, in order to keep my operation running, in order to keep the bottom line? So I would suggest in those situations, some transformation initiatives, they can disrupt the productivity a little bit, but that will be normal if that's only momentarily. But if that is happening and it's impacting your bottom line too much, there's something wrong. Maybe you're doing too fast, maybe you're doing too much. So you need to be constantly measuring what's happening within your transformation and how that impact is easing the productivity. So you're going to have evidence and data to make the right decisions at the right time. But I would say, from my experience, I would suggest that you consider some disruption in the productivity that is acceptable, but you cannot disrupt the business. That's important. So one thing that is critical. So what happens with Kodak? And it's a well-written example. You have information everywhere. Kodak, because of the structure of Kodak, the business model, the business value, how they deliver the value to their customer, it was so complex and so structured that when the digital photography started picking up, they didn't have enough time and capabilities actually to make the change without disrupting their own businesses, because they knew the technology, they knew that was coming, they knew all the risks, etc. But the timing in order to make that transition wasn't too long. And the problem is, okay, or either we disrupt our business in the next year, we're going to be negative, or we keep the operation as is as long as we can, but we need to be able also to transform or create a separate company. So there are some strategies to prevent that disruption, but I can tell you it's not one single answer. It's a very complex thing to do. So we have many examples out there. It's not only Kodak, that because the business model, the way you're structured, your transformation might disrupt your business. So you need to be aware of that. Either if my transformation is hurting or disrupting my productivity momentarily, that will be acceptable, but be aware of the signs if that's disrupting your business or starting competing with your business, because then you need to make a decision. Or either we go full steam with this, or we need to prevent and accept the losses that might happen in your current business. And that may mean killing your business, which is not good for me, right? So it's not a simple answer, and it's not a simple recipe for every industry sector.
Thanks, Eddie. I'm going to take that. One of our audience wanted to take it further, talking about productivity. She mentioned, how can we measure the productivity? I'm going to start by talking about the earned value management. As we all know, measuring performance results versus what has been planned, and definitely integrating the aspects of scope, time, cost, and quality. Those were a valid aspect of performance measurement. I think as we're evolving in the complexity and in transformation realm, we need to take it further to the aspect of speed, to the aspect of safety measures, to the security, and to all the complexity aspects other than the traditional ones. So what would you add to the measurement of productivity from transformation realm, not from the traditional aspects, which we know that earned value has been valid indeed?
Yeah. One important aspect of productivity is that there is not much innovation in terms of how to measure productivity. It's important to understand what is productivity. Productivity is how efficiently am I using my resources in the time I have within the scope I have. So essentially, is how can we make the most you can within the resources, with the talent, with the structure you have. That's productivity. And of course, at some point, you're going to reach an optimum peak that will be consistent. And if you can stay there, you're going to be fully productive, let's say, for a long period of time. There are a number of ways of identifying productivity. I think one of the main things you can use to identify productivity is to analyze the capacity you have in your organization for the transformation or for the projects in terms of resources, in terms of people, and try to understand if that capacity is being overutilized or subutilized within your portfolio of initiatives. So in other words would be, am I forcing or stressing the capacity of my teams, or am I underusing the capacity of my teams with my portfolio? And the reason I am telling you this is because transformation, one of the main things that also hurts transformation sometimes is the lack of priority. You have so many things to do simultaneously. You have a lot of projects underway, and sometimes you're gonna be in a crossroad that you say, okay, what is the priority? I mean, everything is important here, but I don't have people or resources to work on every project. So we need to identify the priorities quickly, easily, and faster, okay, and efficiently. And that's why I mentioned one of the big risks of transformation is the clear vision. In order to identify the priorities, you need to have a clear vision about your goals. And once you identify the priorities, you can improve the productivity of your team. Let me share a tool that I love about productivity. Productivity, again, is using the maximum or maximizing the added value to your process, whatever process it is. One tool that I like a lot, that I use it in some organizations as well, in my other projects, is value stream mapping. So value stream mapping essentially is you're going to map all the activities, you're going to identify and measure in terms of time, in terms of outputs and outcomes, all the activities on your process, and you're going to identify where I'm wasting time, where people are waiting to get to work or to add value or to deliver a task, etc., and where I can improve those activities and what activities don't make sense. So because transformation sometimes is very innovative for companies, sometimes they need to come up with a new process, new ways of working, etc. And it's very easy to make those structures and process complex. You need to have simplification. You need to simplify those structures and process as much as possible. So they focus on the core. Therefore, you're going to be able to improve productivity. So value stream mapping, if you go and Google it, you're going to find a lot of examples and explanation. It's one tool that I like when you have a process, when you have some issues with productivity, and you want to identify where I am wasting time, where I'm wasting too much time to do a task or to deliver a task, and how can we improve the whole communication, the whole productivity.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. I'm going to take this also from one of our leaders, top leaders in the region, who has asked very interesting and interrelated questions. He said, there are lots of capability frameworks. What's your say on an approved capability framework for people work in transformation as other domain in project management? So talking about project delivery or project monitoring and control. So that's his first question. And then there are lots of alternation between talking about managing a change or transformation management. Do you see a difference between those two, managing change versus transformation management? And his last and final question is, digitizing the business or project management, is it considered as a transformation project? And if so, what is the key risk usually on these projects? Very interesting question. Thank you, Naif.
Okay, so let me go back to the first question, which is the frameworks. So what we propose here with the building blocks is how can we, what are the essential elements of a framework or a process? And you have to have a framework. It's really important to have a process defined, the ways of working or the operating system. So the building block operating system, as I mentioned, it encompasses as well the process and the framework. So there are other frameworks available for sure. The main difference and the big difference which the transformation compass is the focus on people. So we take an inside approach, an inside-out approach to focus on the people transformation. So we're going to help the people inside my organization to be able to transform, to understand what is transformation, to understand what are the practices for transformation, etc. So sometimes you need to hire a lot of consultants or a consulting company to help you expedite or speed up the transformation. The problem is when this company finishes the work, they leave the company, and a lot of that transformation capability that they developed and they brought to the company, they take with them when they leave. And that's the key. The transformation capability, the transformation competence should stay within the company. So that's why it's really important to transform the people within the company. And a framework is going to help you to understand that, how to do that. So you have to have a framework. And for example, we did a recent research that we published that is, it's also available in our website, that we measured, we tried to correlate what is the strategy implementation performance for our company and transformation performance. We found out that those that have a very well formalized framework process, they tend to be even faster in terms of speed within the transformation compared to those organizations that don't have a very well defined and formalized framework or process for their transformation. So that's why one of the key building blocks in the compass that I mentioned is the operating system. It's how we're going to work. What's the framework behind it? So I would say it's paramount for you to develop your framework. Sometimes, I would say most of the times actually, you need to adapt and tailor the framework to your company. So let's say you can use the Discipline Agile Toolkit, for example, to understand some ideas, get some ideas, some practice there, and build your own framework based on DA to do to work in a more agile fashion, to work in a more agile mindset. So my recommendation would be, number one, you have to have a framework, very well defined, to help the team understand how to do things together, how to collaborate, how to communicate, the reporting system, the governance, everything. And plus, this framework should be tailored to your conditions, to your context. And this is key as well, because every business unit, every business organization, every different government entities, they will have some specific characteristics or elements that will need to be addressed differently. So that would be my two recommendations for the framework. The other question, Grace, was about the difference between transformation and change. Transformation is a more enterprise level. Every time you use the word transformation, means it's something bigger, radical, disruptive. Change or change management are elements of transformation. So, for example, change management, you're going to deal with how we work with the culture, with people, so changing the way they work, etc. So all the key elements and the concepts and practices from change management, how you do change in a project level and a process level, can be applied and are applied in a transformation as well. But transformation, remember, it's an enterprise initiative. So it's very important. And the final question, the last question, Grace, is the digital. Can you repeat the last question? Sorry, I note here that the digital transformation, what are the risks, right?
Digitizing the business or project management considered as a transformation project? Do you consider digitizing the business or project management like automation or else? If so, what are the risks in those projects?
Good.
He's asking about digitizing the business specifically. And I think I have another question also from other privately. I got another question on what are the elements of a digital transformation. I think the main concern about digitizing or digitalizing the project and transformation.
Perfect. So let me provide some basic concept about digital transformation. So digital transformation, when you hear this word, is essentially technology-enabled transformation, meaning you're taking something that is analog, that is like offline, and you're making that online or you're making that digital without a human intervention, without a human touch. For example, I can give you a very simple example that, I mean, everyone probably experienced that already. I'm 40 years old, so I used to open a bank account, going to the bank by myself in person, spend like an hour or two talking with my manager, my account manager, to open a bank, filling a lot of forms. So it takes me like half a day to open an account or get a new credit card. Now what to do? You just pick your phone, take a picture, now a headshot, take a picture of your documents, send to a bank, and let's say 2 days, 3 days later, you get your credit card at home, or you have a new bank account. That's digitizing a business or a unity in the organization. And again, be careful about digitizing the business and digitizing a product or a service. Okay, what I just gave you as an example, they are digitizing a value proposition from a bank. It's one product. Okay, it doesn't mean I can do everything in a bank now, taking pictures of my face at home and sending the documents to the cloud and my phone to the bank. So that's important. If you have a digital business, it means you have the whole business, the whole customer journey using digital technology or technology to make that more digital, more instantaneous, more online. So that's a big difference. And what are the risks, they asked? I think the risks of digitizing a business is like keeping or don't tackling or addressing the problems that your offline business used to have prior to the digitalization. So let's say, I'm going to take the same example. So let's say I don't like to wait too much when I need a support from my account manager from my bank, because I need to call, send an email, etc., etc. Now I can do pretty much online, okay? I can chat, etc. But if that time doesn't improve, for me as a customer, that service didn't solve my problem. I'm still waiting like an hour or two to get a response from my bank account manager. The difference now is instead of calling, sending email, I'm waiting in the app, chatting with her or with him and waiting for. So for me, the main risk, and I could list many other risks, of course, but for me, the main risk is like your customer journey with your offline offering is not good. And now you're going to make that digital. So then you need to make sure that I'm solving the problems or I'm correcting the issues that I used to have, plus I'm adding something different. What is the main difference between what is the value proposition? Must be clear. From opening an account or getting a credit card from my cell phone compared to going by myself to the bank and sitting with my bank account manager and spending some time, drinking some coffee, etc., etc. So the whole experience and the whole purpose must be well defined, because sometimes I would love to spend a couple of hours going to the bank and sitting down and talking about financials, etc., etc. So the organization doesn't know what's the best. So again, digitalization is an enabler. So if your purpose for becoming digital is not clear, it doesn't matter if you're going to be digital or not, because your whole experience is still the same or is still not working for that audience that you're targeting.
Yeah, very interesting. And someone also privately asked that if you want to choose why digitalizing one process to transform that would affect, as you have mentioned, cost, time, how would we identify the best process?
That's the 1 million question.
I know. I'm sorry for the audience, but I was getting very, very interesting one. It's a pity not to share them.
Thank you. No, that's an interesting question. I think again, let's see digital transformation as an enabler to become different, to become better, to do something different, to improve something. So I think to answer your question, if I was in the position of a leader saying, hey, I have a budget here, I want to invest in digital transformation or technology, which process I should take? I would go and say, okay, which process by using digital transformation or this technology, I'm going to deliver more value to my customer. So my customer is going to be even happier, or I'm going to be solving a critical problem to my customer, or there is a trend in my customer behavior that is going to force me to become digital. Those are the process I would prioritize to do that. And again, I'm taking a customer perspective here. And the reason why is because, again, I've seen a lot of organizations investing in digital technology and digital transformation, but at the end of the day, sometimes the service is pretty much the same. The problems are pretty much the same, and the value proposition didn't change. What changed was the way they're delivering that value proposition. But again, the value proposition is pretty much the same. I'm still getting the exactly same credit card with the same limit, with the same issues of every credit card that I know. The main difference is that I'm now getting the credit card using my cell phone. So it's only the way you're providing the service, but at the end of the day, it didn't change the service itself or the value proposition you're delivering with that product or that service. I don't know if I answered, but it's a very interesting question, Gracie.
Very interesting and hard to, I know, hard to address with a few seconds or minutes. There are other interesting, I think one of the audience wanted to go back to the teams and to the motivation. I like his question. How can a project team lead, regalvanize a project team? How can a project team lead, regalvanize a project team which has lost motivation due to unforeseen forced disruption for project plan? So now he's addressing some aspects of the COVID-19 period. So he's saying that we have witnessed this, and what's your approach? What do you suggest?
Let me see. I think so. Here's an idea, and this is one thing that is happening with COVID, because this was a very abrupt change in our lives, in the way we live, in the way we communicate, in the way we move, etc., the way we work. So I would love to suggest one recommendation for this question. And again, just a recommendation, just a thought. I would try to leverage what we call situational leadership, or understand where the team is now in this situation, so I can work with a different behavior. So let me give an example. Today, because of the crisis, a lot of teams, a lot of people, they lost the foundation. They lost the pillars, or everything that was sustaining their behavior, their attitude, the way they work, what they believe, etc. So sometimes I see a lot of teams, they're loose, they're lost in terms of, okay, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to expect, I'm afraid about the future, etc. So it's really clear in this situation. So I'm taking the crisis situation as an example. And if you use a curve, like they call the situational leadership, you have essential 4 quadrants, okay, 4 stages. The first stage is you need to be very assertive, direct, and clear about, okay, what you need to do, what you need to do next. So for example, crisis. The crisis arrived. We need to do an evaluation or a research in our company to understand, okay, what's going to be the impact. That's a very clear direction, okay? So you're basically telling them what to do and sometimes how to do it. So you're giving a direct recommendation, direct task. And this is important because that will give them the direction they need. The second is, as they get used with the crisis situations, with the challenge they're facing, you can be more as a coaching perspective, or you can develop your coaching abilities to say, okay, now we have this problem. How can I help you understand the problem, come up with a solution? So I'm just telling you, we need to understand what's happening with my organization, but I don't know how we're going to do that together. So we need to do that together. So you're going to need a lot of coaching practice to help the team understand that. The next one would be as the team gets more experience with the situation. So let's see, for example, now everyone is working from home. I'm used to work from home anyway, even before the crisis. But for people that never worked from home, this was a major shift, right? You need to be organized with kids, with family. I mean, you get interruptions and distractions all the time. So you need to have a discipline, etc. So now you are get used to that. As a leader, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna give you all the support you need to make your work, to do your job. I don't need to tell you a lot about what to do. Here are the tools you can use. Here are the ways you can communicate with your team. Here are the technology you need to have. You have a computer, etc., etc. I'm gonna give you what are the issues I need to work and all the support you need to do your job. But your job is your responsibility. I'm not giving you directions anymore. See, I'm telling you what are the problems, what help I need from you. The last quadrant is when you're delegating everything. You don't even need to talk about the team because they know what to do. You actually see, I have a project here, team. You need to deliver this project in, let's say, 5 months. It's up to the team to decide how they're going to do that. When you reach that level of experience, of familiarity of working together, then you're more than able to just delegate what you need to do with people. But don't do that in the beginning. For example, if you're starting the crisis today and you just say to people, hey, find the new ways of working because tomorrow no one can come to the office. That would be a disaster. That would be a totally disaster. So we need to tell them, okay, this is the key rules and what we're going to do. And then as people get used to the situation, then they will be able to figure out the solution by themselves. But this is a journey. This is a curve. I would say a learning curve is similar. So it's a bell curve that you go from directing to delegating, and you pass through coaching and supporting. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think I echo every word you said, and I think this was very, very rich. I think all the discussion has tackled aspects of risks, of measuring, of transformation, where to start, what are the capabilities, how to motivate people, where is the quick. I think I would like to close by one of the questions that I got privately. What are the quick wins? And I know that many people are attending from government. So if you want to close by quickly, one word from a government perspective as well, for a transformation leader, where should be the focus for a quick win in a transformation space where we know the complexity are high and we need to tackle processes, people, mindset, lots of aspects, and you mentioned prioritization. Tell us the quick wins, and I know that some of the people as well have raised, I'm sorry if I couldn't address all of them. Some of them also mentioned about the exit criteria. Would you, if you want to say one word about quick win and exit criteria, so I know that I can cover all the questions, and then we'll close it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Those are very interesting questions. I think the quick wins would be very dependent on the business. Okay, if you're in the government, if you're in a private sector, etc. For the government, I would say today, if I was part of a government and I say, okay, what's our most important quick win? I would say is the safety of our citizens. That would be my most quick win. How can we improve the safety? People feel safe again to go outside, to carry out their lives. How can we improve that feeling? That would be my most important quick win, because I think that's what people are needing today. They need to feel safe again, and that's really important. I'm using my experience as well, my perspective. I'm in Brazil, and the things are happening here, and I'm following up other countries, other areas of the globe. And my main feeling today is every time I go outside with my wife or alone, I don't feel safe anymore. And that's a problem that probably everyone is feeling. So if I'm in the government shoes, I would say, how can I improve safety or that feeling of safety to my citizens so we can go back to normal or close to normal? Because now they're talking about the new normal, and I totally agree. So at least we can think about, okay, what are the next steps? How can we recover what we have lost in the last months? And remember the other question, Grace. There are so many interesting questions, so I'm a bit lost. The other one is the
exit criteria.
The exit criteria of a transformation.
Yes.
The exit criteria for transformation. I'm going to give a very quick one. The exit criteria for transformation is, remember the North Star and the main vision and goals for the transformation? If you're not even close to that, I would say there is a good sign that you're going in the wrong direction. So you may be even course correct or try to understand why that happened, or you may even say, you know what, I think we should get rid of this as soon as we can. Remember one thing, we're talking about enterprise-wide transformation. So this means millions of dollars or investment, a lot of people engage in that transformation. So this sign won't happen in a matter of days or weeks. So that's why it's really important to understand what is the best exit strategy, to track everything you can to make sure you're going in the right direction or not. Because I believe that if you're going in the right direction, there is no way to save the transformation. You need to stop and say whatever have left. So that will be my suggestion for you. And again, very important, and a lot of the participants mentioned that, metrics. If you don't measure, if you don't know where you're going, you're blind. You're going to a place that you don't know if you're going to get there. And that's very important. I mean, a particular problem here today with the data about the crisis, I think a lot of people, they feel themselves, you know what, I don't know what's happening. The data is not showing the reality to me. As a company, as a government, we need to improve that to make sure the data actually shows what is exactly happening. Then I can make a decision. And in transformation, the same. Sometimes the data is telling one thing, but you don't have the full picture. And then you're in trouble, because if you need to get rid of the transformation or stop the transformation of course correct, you're lacking a piece of the data that is essential. So in this case, the TO transformation also will be very helpful, because you have people, focus on these all the time.
Yeah, amazing. I think we need to come to an end. I can say that this is the most engaging webinar we have ever had. And allow me, Eddie, to start by thanking you for giving all of these food of thought. And I think it's now an evidence that this is a very important topic for the Middle East, North Africa. And I think everybody is waiting to see what is PMI is launching soon. So please stay tuned. There will be another webinar, and just follow us so you know what's coming with this space, definitely around building transformation leaders and helping driving successful transformation. I would like to thank each and everyone who attended today, and I assure you that we're going to record this webinar and we're going to post it again on our PMI MENA LinkedIn page. So thanks again, and I think I'm going to have everybody saying to Eddie, please stay safe. We're following the news, and I hope that with the peak, we're going to drop again in Brazil, and hope to see you back soon to the normal. I'm going to have you in person in the Middle East. That would be... I'm
missing traveling. I'm really missing traveling, trust me. Yeah, I'm counting the days to go back to normal and be able to travel and go to visit you in person. Yeah, I'd love that.
Looking forward to welcome you in the Middle East. And thank you so much for your time. And thanks to each and everyone. Follow us, and please stay tuned to hear again this recorded session on our site. Thanks, Eddie. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.